Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, after an intense feud, President Bongbong Marcos extends an olive branch to the Duterte family. Transport authorities set a new target date for the planned EDSA rehabilitation. Former U.S. President Joe Biden thankful for an outpouring of love and support following his cancer diagnosis. And 3 more Filipino climbers conquer Mount Everest. After a bitter falling out with his former Uniteam running mate, President Bongbong Marcos says he is open to patching things up with Vice President Sara Duterte and her family. Senate President Cheese Escudero backs such a move, saying it's time to build bridges, not burn them. Hanati reports.
Just a week after the polls, President Bongbong Marcos is extending an olive branch to his once close allies, the Duterte family. In the debut episode of his podcast, posted online, Marcos made his intentions clear.
Ayoko ng gulo. Gusto ko makasundo sa lahat ng tao. Mas maganda, marami na akong kaaway. Hindi ko kailangan ng kaaway. Kailangan ko kaibigan.
This comes after a polarizing midterm election, and as Vice President Sara Duterte is yet to face an impeachment trial in the Senate. He acknowledged his administration had shortcomings when it comes to making every Filipino's daily life much easier and plans more action in the next 3 years. Despite obvious differences, Marcos says cooperation is important in governance.
Magko-confess ako dito. Lagi nga akong bukas sa ganyan. I'm always open to any approach na alika magtulungan tayo, di ba? Kahit hindi tayo magkasundo sa polisiya, hindi tayo magkasundo. Gawin niyo yung trabaho pero wag na tayong nanggugulo. Wag na natin tanggalin natin yung gulo.
Senate President Cheese Escudero backs this call. In a statement, he said that the president's reconciliation with the Dutertes is a reminder that the welfare of the Filipino people should come first, before personal differences and partisan disputes. Escudero also points to the midterm results as a wake-up call for unity in governance. The senatorial race had undeniably unexpected results, with almost a balance between the Duterte and Marcos slates, and 2 from the opposition. Vice President Sara Duterte had earlier said she's prepared to face whatever comes out of her impeachment case, even welcoming a bloodbath in the Senate trial, which she advised to her lawyers. Hanati, Billionario News Channel.
Akbayan topping the midterm poll surprised many, including the party list itself. On Billionario News Channels at the forefront, first nominee Chel Diokno attributes their 2.7 million votes to a good track record and the infusion of young blood into the organization.
One factor is the changing demographic of our voters. Because last elections in 2022, there were only about 11% were from the Gen Zs. But this election, the Gen Zs were over 20%. So that's a big jump from roughly 5 or 6 million voters to times 2 or times 3. But aside from that, I really have to say that we really had message discipline in terms of the campaign.
Diokno also vows not to lose sight of multi-sectoral issues that needs addressing, despite being part of the House prosecution panel in the impeachment trial of Vice President Duterte.
Well, Akbayan was the first to endorse the first impeachment complaint. And the reason is because we have been really, asking for accountability. We are for the truth, for justice and accountability. I think I have enough time management skills to do that as well as my legislative work. Yung sobrang pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, our problems are crisis in education, unemployment, and the issues in the West Philippine Sea. We should never forget those issues, among others.
The Commission on Elections inspects discarded campaign materials removed under Oplan Baklas. The paraphernalia at the Payatas disposal facility were turned over to the Eco Waste Coalition for further examination and integration into environmentally aligned projects. The campaign items were flagged for being illegal, with most of them failing to comply with a rule that mandates the use of biodegradable materials. Those items that cannot be repurposed will be disposed in accordance with existing environmental laws. More than 6.4 tons of campaign materials have so far been collected across Metro Manila. President Bongbong Marcos justifies the almost 3-year delay in the rollout of his promised 20 peso per kilo rice program. In his podcast, Marcos blamed smuggling and excessive rice importation. He claimed some public officials were involved.
Nag-i-smuggle, mga official din ng gobyerno. Kumikita sila. O di bakit nila papalitan? Sige, pasok lang sila ng pasok. Hindi nila iniintindi ang production. Hindi iniintindi yung sistema. Hindi nila iniintindi ang presyo ng palay, ang presyo ng bigas, ang kikitain ng magsasaka. Wala. Nung inipit namin yung mga smuggle at rineraid na namin yung mga warehouse, nabawasan yung supply. Kailangan namin ayusin yung NFA. Lahat yan, yung mga changes na ganyan, hindi ganun kasimpleng gawin. May batas na kailangan palitan, mayroong mga taong kailangan palitan, ibang konsepto na. So, ngayon lang namin nabuo lahat.
After several delays, the planned EDSA rehabilitation is now expected to start mid-June. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon announced this during an inspection of elevators at EDSA busway stations this morning. Dizon also stressed the need to rebuild EDSA, saying it's been 45 years since it was last rehabilitated. The planned rehabilitation was initially set for March and then moved to April. Motorists are advised to brace for heavier traffic due to the EDSA makeover. The MMDA has previously warned of stricter clearing operations ahead of the rehabilitation. The Philippine Navy marks its 127th anniversary with new assets under its wing. Francis Falve joins us from Subic, Zambales. For more on this, Francis, what's the latest?
Yes, Mai, the President led the 127th anniversary of the Philippine Navy here at the Navy Operating Base in Subic, Zambales. With the team addressing challenges, promoting regional stability, and strengthening maritime security, the celebration highlights the Navy's role in the regional maritime cooperation and the efforts for modernization to protect the country's maritime domain. Also present were Defense Secretary Gibo Chodoro, AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Browner Jr., Major Services Representatives, and Zambales Governor Ebdane. In his opening remarks, Vice Admiral Jose Maria Ambrosio Espeleta, Philippine Navy Flag Officer in Command, emphasized the Navy's transformation into a modern, multi-capable maritime force. President Marcos then conferred awards to outstanding naval personnel and units for exemplary performance and dedication to duty. In his speech, the President acknowledged the key role of Navy and military personnel in the recently concluded midterm elections. He also talked about the ongoing modernization of the armed forces and thanked all the sailors and Marines for safeguarding our sovereignty. The Philippine Navy also christened and formally commissioned 2 new naval assets, BRP Miguel Malbar or FFG-06 and BRP Albert Mazzini or PZ-909. BRP Miguel Malbar is a guided missile frigate arrived from South Korea on April 4. This is equipped for anti-ship, anti-submarine, anti-aircraft, and electronic warfare systems. The 118-meter vessel featured advanced sensors and weapon systems and is designed for long-range multi-role combat operations. BRP Albert Mazzini or PG-909 on the other hand is the 8th Acero-class fast attack interdiction craft missile. This is the first locally assembled missile-capable patrol vessel in the country and is built for rapid interdiction and coastal operations under the Philippine Navy's Littoral Combat Force. The commissioning of these 2 platforms strengthens the Philippine Navy's capacity to address current and emerging maritime challenges. bolstering its role in national defense and regional stability. Mai?
Thank you. Francis Falve reporting live from Subic, Zambales. For the first time in history, the Philippines is leading the decision-making body of the World Health Organization. Health Secretary Ted Herbosa formally took the helm of the 78th World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland. He thanked members of the WHO Western Pacific region for nominating the Philippines and to all WHO member states for their support. The assembly is composed of 194 member countries and serves as the main forum for crafting international health policies. Authorities in Negros Island continue to prepare for the eventuality of a more destructive eruption of Mount Kanlaon. In Bago City, millennials and Gen Zs are proving that their youth is not a limitation but a lifeline. Paolo Barcelon has this story.
It's morning again in Bago City, one of the hardest hit by ashfall during Kanlaon volcano's May 13 eruption. And among those waking up early are the young but battle-hardened rescuers and support staff of the city's disaster office. Andrea, who's a licensed physical therapist, is the DRRM office's training and admin staff. Like majority of their personnel, she's trained in search and rescue as well as in public information.
Very crucial po in terms of information. No? Hindi ka makakapaglabas ng information without gathering data from other perspective like the barangay, the community, as well as sa city po. So, very crucial siya at the same time. Parang hindi ka agad-agad makapagsalita or send data kasi nga as people parang naman ngayon is nasa social media. So, a little lang mistake can be na po, judge or criticize po.
Roldan, Joshua, and Jerlans are all rescuers, all under 30 years old. Despite their youth, they're all well-trained in search and rescue techniques.
Nag-start ako na magtrabaho nang nagkaanak ako. Nang 2 years old na ngayon.
Roldan and Joshua were once at the receiving end of help, both due to motorcycle accidents, the scars of which Joshua still has on his head, as he survived the collision and underwent a craniotomy to save his life. Now, it's his turn to save others, and months after recovering from the injury, he's back out on the field.
Kahit ng ilang months pa lang ako nag-recover, pero gustong-gusto ko na bumalik at makatulong ulit sa kapwa ko, sir.
Hindi ka ba natatakot na with the type of work that you're doing, baka maulit yung nangyari sa'yo. Hindi ba kayo natatakot?
Hindi, sir. Mas malakas yung prayers.
But sometimes, even the toughest of young souls can get emotional, especially in the last few times Kanlaon erupted, where the team was tasked to evacuate others.
Maraming mga bata at mga matatanda, sir, na parang hindi na kayang makalikas yung habang inaalalayan mo na makapunta ng evacuation center. Masakit, sir, sa damdamin kasi yung eagerness mo na tumulong, sir, is grabe, sir.
Bago City's Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office has 125 personnel. Majority of them, Gen Zs and millennials. The Office of Civil Defense says this is crucial as Gen Zs and millennial rescuers are adept with technology and can respond faster, traits that are vital in disaster response, especially in volcanic eruptions.
Whenever they're off duty, they become just like any other Gen Z or millennial, enjoying life, sometimes playing games. Despite this, they come back to the core of why they are in disaster response, which is to save lives, dedicating their youth and their energy to serve the people. In Negros Island, Paolo Barcelon, Billionaire News Channel.
In the U.S., former President Joe Biden thankful for what he describes as an outpouring of love and support. On social media, the 82-year-old wrote, "Cancer touches us all," his first public comment after being diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Britain's King Charles is the latest to express support for Biden, sending him a personal message over the weekend. The king himself is undergoing treatment for an undisclosed form of cancer. Biden's cancer diagnosis fueling speculations there were efforts to cover up his health while in office. A day after wishing Biden well, President Donald Trump says he was surprised the public wasn't told about his predecessor's condition earlier, a position shared by some of his allies, including Vice President J.D. Vance.
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time.
We really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. This is not child's play, and we can pray for good health, but also recognize that if you're not in good enough health to do the job, you shouldn't be doing the job.
In the Vatican, Pope Leo meets with U.S. Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio a day after the two officials attended the Pope's inaugural Mass. During the meeting, Vance delivered a letter from President Trump and First Lady Melania inviting the pontiff to the White House. Before becoming the first American pope to lead the Catholic Church, then Cardinal Robert Prevost had made veiled criticisms of Vance and the Trump administration's immigration policies. In royal news, Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla explores the colorful floral displays at London's Chelsea Flower Show. The royal couple met with the waiting crowds and were given a guided tour. Former footballer David Beckham was also present at the show and met with Charles and Camilla. The event is held for 5 days in May and organized by the Royal Horticultural Society. We are taking a break. Up ahead, Filipino boxing icon Manny Pacquiao now in Los Angeles to prepare for his ring comeback. That and more when Newsfeed at Noon returns. Time now for sports news. Filipino boxing icon Manny Pacquiao is ready to settle some unfinished business in the ring. The 8th Division champ has touched down in Los Angeles to prepare for his title clash against WBC champion Mario Barrios in Las Vegas in July. Pacquiao will train at the wildcard gym of his longtime coach, Freddie Roach. This comes after the People's Champ lost in his Senate comeback bid in the midterm elections. The 46-year-old icon had his last professional match in 2021 against Cuba's Yordanis Ugas. Teen tennis ace Alex Eala climbs to a career high, world number 69 in the latest official WTA rankings. This comes as former world number 1 Victoria Azarenka fell 19 spots to 73, and Renata Zarayua slipped 3 notches to 72. Eala did not earn points in Rome despite a doubles quarterfinals finish with world number 2 Coco Gauff. She is now back in training at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain, gearing up for her main draw debut at the Roland Garros French Open. Pinoy pride again, this time on the world's highest peak. 3 more Filipino climbers have conquered Mount Everest. They include Rick Rabe, who became the 9th Filipino to stand on top of the world last week, while Geno Panganiban and Miguel Mapalad completed their climb over the weekend. They stood at a height of over 8,000 meters or 29,000 feet above sea level. But the climbing season also saw tragedy following the death of 45-year-old Filipino climber Philip Santiago last week. A statement from Nepal's tourism department says Santiago became exhausted after reaching Camp 4 and died while resting in his tent. In entertainment, Rihanna graces the star-studded Cannes Film Festival for the premiere of Spike Lee's latest film, Highest to Lowest. Flaunting her baby bump in a sky blue bodycon gown, the pop superstar supported her partner ASAP Rocky, who stars in the movie. The couple are expecting their third child. The rest of the cast also hit the red carpet. They include Denzel Washington, who received a surprise Lifetime Achievement Award. This also marks the first time that the two-time Oscar-winning actor attended the festival. The Philippines recently scored back-to-back wins in the Miss Elite Global Pageant. Francine Tahanlangit won this year's competition in India, succeeding fellow Filipina Jean Tumang. She also became Miss Manila in 2023. She's now back in the Philippines and shared her latest pageant experience on Billionaire News Channel's It's a Beautiful Day.
I did feel a little bit nervous, but then it's also amazing that I was able to contact Ate Jean and she gave me some tips and she really just reminded me to be kind to everyone that I meet. And this really led me to enjoy every moment of the pageant since I was able to interact with all of the girls. I was able to ask their stories. And, you know, the pressure really turned into, you know, a purpose to get to know the people that's in the competition.
And before we go, Filipino faith, fashion, and artistry takes center stage in a week-long photo exhibit in Cebu. The mall display is a prelude to the grand Santa Cruzan sa Sugbo that will showcase 40 renowned designers and their chosen sagalas. The gowns, which will soon parade the streets of Cebu, were inspired by the rich heritage of both Santa Cruzan and Flores de Mayo. The event is held annually by the Cebu City Tourism Commission to celebrate Queen Helena's discovery of the Holy Cross and pay tribute to the Virgin Mary. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on the Billionaire News Channel. Good afternoon.